Okay, we need to have a serious discussion because, okay, I love modern Trek, and it's okay if y'all don't, because I don't like some things. Like, I did not like Star Trek Picard, but just because somebody else liked it doesn't mean I'm gonna go, well, that ain't real Star Trek, or this, that, and the other, because it's real to them if they like it. Like, I didn't like Next Generation season 1, but then I stuck with it and I ended up liking that. Deep Space Nine is my favorite series. But I remember watching the Deep Space Nine documentary, and them, an article they read said that it wasn't Star Trek. It wasn't this, oh, it's on a space station, it's not Star Trek. And I see that a lot with discords now of modern Trek and them saying it's not Star Trek. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like the gatekeeping needs to stop, because I'm not going to get into somebody's comments and be like, well, you don't know the old Star Trek. Newsflash, I do know the old Star Trek because I started with TOS. My dad was a big TOS fan, and we didn't have cable, but we had like the antenna thing when I was growing up. And we would watch retro TV, and me and him would watch Star Trek together, TOS. And he would not watch The Next Generation because he was like, that's not my Star Trek. Like, he was that kind of person too. Like, he didn't like Next Gen because that wasn't his Star Trek. He grew up in the 70s where reruns and syndication became a thing of TOS. So it was his Star Trek. And so it became mine because I would watch the old, the original series, and I still watch the original series, like, on streaming platforms like Paramount Plus. I will watch the original series when I'm feeling down and all this stuff because it gives me nostalgia. But if my friends ask me, like, which Star Trek to start them out on, I'm not going to start them out on the old stuff. I'm going to start them out on the new stuff because they're not into Star Trek like I am. They never grew up on it. They never had that nostalgia feel for it. So I'm going to do newer stuff. But a lot of people I've commented with and stuff said, oh, you like the newer stuff. You've probably never seen any of the old stuff. I'm like, yeah, I do. I just don't gatekeep, because my Star Trek might not be their Star Trek, but it's somebody's Star Trek that gets them into the fandom. And I feel like we should encourage more fans and stuff. And then if they want to try out the old stuff, that's fine, but sometimes they might not like it. And that's fine too. Like, I have friends who are into anime, so I know to get them started on like Lower Decks, Prodigy, stuff like that, because they are not into live action like that. And I just love getting people into this fandom, and but if we keep nitpicking on every little thing that Star Trek does, we're not going to have any fans. Next thing you know, everything's going to get canceled. Next thing you know, we're not going to have anything on Star Trek. So, like, just, and I'm not saying, like, you have to like it. No. If you just like the old stuff, watch the old stuff. But just because I like something doesn't mean you get in my comments and be like, oh, well, that ain't real Star Trek. That's a dumpster fire. That's this, that's that. And I'm like, okay, you don't have to like it, but you just be respectful if I like it. And then there was another comment that says I'm basically not a true Star Trek fan because you probably never watched anything after 2000 or before 2000. And I'm like, and called Star Trek a cash grab now. But I'm like, Star Trek has always been about making money. They do have good episodes about humanity, about what's going on in current days and all that stuff. But they also look at the best way to make money, because if they can't make money, they can't have a show. They can't do the stuff. And then I also remember people, like, I know Starfleet Academy isn't for everybody, but I also remember people wanting, like, to know what goes on in Starfleet Academy, like a show about that. And then they get that show and they're like, oh, this is crap. And I'm like, well, every Star Trek is like, Star Trek usually has the worst first seasons of any other show, but then they end up getting renewed and you see it all play out. Oh, and also another thing, I will not tolerate homophobic, sexist, racist point of views on this show of Starfleet Academy or any show of Star Trek, because Star Trek has always been woke. If that's the term you want to use, it's always been like about people of color, about social injustice and like how to deal with all that stuff, and tell it in a nice sci-fi way so y'all can digest it better, because some of y'all can't digest it if it's not sci-fi. So I will not tolerate any hate or anything. And that's all I have to say. And that's why a lot of people don't really like our fandom, because they try and get involved and people always have to be like, oh, you're not a true fan. You're not a true fan. They've done that. They've done that to women and people of color more. So don't ever get into my comments and say that. And I'm just saying. Okay, that's all I have to say. Sorry for the rant, and just be respectful. That's all I ask. Live long and prosper.